Have you ever sat beside someone you love, someone you've known for decades, and felt like the silence between you says more than words ever could, but not in the way it used to? Maybe the quiet feels heavier now, not peaceful. Maybe it's been a while since you last held hands without thinking about it. In our senior years, it's easy to assume that love and intimacy naturally fade, as if they're tied to youth and novelty. But the truth is, they don't disappear. They simply change shape. And when we're willing to adapt with them, that connection can deepen in ways that are even more profound than before. Love in later life isn't about grand gestures or passionate declarations like in the movies. It's in the small things, a knowing glance, a shared laugh, the warmth of a familiar presence. Still, even the strongest relationships can drift if we stop nurturing them. It's not because the love is gone. It's because we sometimes forget that connection needs care. Not fixing, just gentle, consistent attention. Think about a garden that's been around for years. The roots are strong. The soil is rich from seasons of experience. But even the most beautiful garden won't thrive if it's left alone too long. Weeds creep in, the soil dries out, and what once bloomed begins to dull. Relationships are no different. And just like tending a garden, keeping love and intimacy alive doesn't have to be complicated. It just takes presence and intention. Let's start with something simple but powerful, truly listening. Not just hearing words, but listening with the kind of attention we often reserve for new relationships. Over time, we get comfortable. We assume we know what our partner thinks or feels. But people keep growing, even in their senior years. Asking how someone's really doing, and then sitting quietly while they find the words can rekindle closeness. It shows you still care to know them, not just remember who they were. Another often overlooked piece of intimacy is physical touch. It doesn't always have to be romantic. A gentle squeeze of the hand, a hug that lingers just a little longer, resting your head on their shoulder during a quiet moment, these acts speak directly to the heart. Over time, touch can become routine or even sparse, especially when health issues or emotional distance get in the way. But intentionally making space for touch again can soften walls and bring warmth back into everyday moments. And while we're talking about everyday moments, don't underestimate the magic of doing something new together. It doesn't need to be daring or difficult. Even choosing a new recipe to cook side by side or watching a documentary neither of you has seen can shift the energy. Shared novelty creates shared memories, and shared memories remind you why you chose each other in the first place. It brings a little spark back to the rhythm you've settled into. But perhaps one of the most important things to remember is this: love doesn't thrive in perfection. It thrives in openness. Being honest about your feelings, especially if you felt disconnected or unsure, isn't a sign of weakness. It's a way to reconnect. Vulnerability can be scary, especially when you've spent years trying to be the strong one, the steady one. But opening your heart, even a little, gives your partner the chance to meet you there. And sometimes, that's all it takes to start mending what's grown distant. As we continue, let's explore more ways that intimacy can evolve and deepen, not in spite of the years, but because of them. There's something remarkable about the quiet resilience of love that has lasted through seasons of change. It carries the weight of shared history, not as a burden, but as a foundation. And yet, even the strongest foundations need occasional attention. In the rhythm of daily life, it's easy to become more like roommates than partners. The familiar patterns can blur into routine, and affection can begin to feel like something from another time. But the truth is, no matter how many years have passed, there's always room for renewal. One of the most powerful ways to breathe new life into a long-standing connection is by creating space for emotional closeness. This doesn't mean dissecting every thought or revisiting old disagreements. It means finding moments to share what's in your heart now, how you feel about where life has brought you, what dreams you still carry, or even what worries have settled into the background. Sometimes, even a small confession like, "I miss how we used to laugh so hard we couldn't breathe," can open the door to something deeply healing. Exploring each other's inner world again is like dusting off a treasured book you haven't read in a while. The pages may be worn, but the story still stirs something inside you. And if you both commit to turning those pages together, you might find new chapters waiting to be written. Conversation doesn't need to be intense to be meaningful. Even simply asking, "What's something you've been thinking about lately?" can spark a dialogue that moves you closer together. Sometimes it helps to step outside of your usual environment altogether. Changing the scenery, even briefly, can shake up the energy between you. It might be a walk in a park you haven't visited before or a slow drive through the countryside with music playing softly. When the settings shift, so does the mood. That shift often creates a natural opportunity for closeness without forcing anything. It becomes less about the activity and more about being present in a new way. Humor also deserves its moment here. Not the kind that glosses over discomfort or avoids serious topics, but the kind that invites playfulness back into your connection. When was the last time you laughed together for no reason? Humor helps release tension, and it brings lightness to the emotional load that sometimes builds up silently. Whether it's a silly inside joke or poking fun at something absurd on television, those small, shared moments of joy can be surprisingly intimate. Let's not forget the value of expressing appreciation. Not general, habitual compliments, but specific words that show you still see each other. Saying, "You always know how to calm me down when I'm overwhelmed," or "I love the way your eyes light up when you talk about our grandchildren," reminds your partner that they're not invisible. Over time, many people assume that appreciation is implied, but naming it out loud makes it feel real again. Recognition reaffirms connection. It helps both of you feel valued in the present, not just remembered from the past. And then, there's the idea of rekindling closeness by supporting one another's passions. It's easy to forget that two people in love are also individuals with evolving interests. Encouraging your partner to pursue something they care about and showing genuine interest in their excitement plants seeds of respect and admiration. When both of you feel free to grow, your relationship grows with you. There's no perfect formula for keeping love vibrant through the years. But when care, curiosity, and playfulness are allowed back into the space between you, intimacy begins to flow more naturally again. It becomes less about fixing what's missing and more about noticing what's still alive. Let's continue by exploring how intimacy can become not just a quiet presence, but a source of renewed joy and connection that reflects who you are now, not just who you were then. There's a quiet power in recognizing that intimacy isn't a destination. It's something we shape every day, often in the most ordinary moments. As the years pass, many people assume the spark of connection is something that naturally dims, but in reality, it can glow even brighter with time when it's tended with intention. Love matures. It deepens in stillness, and it softens in the spaces where effort meets understanding. One of the most enriching ways to keep that bond alive is by rediscovering shared rituals. Not routines, but small, meaningful acts that belong uniquely to the two of you. Maybe it's sitting together with a cup of tea before bed, or listening to a particular song while preparing dinner. These aren't grand or complicated gestures. They're quiet affirmations of presence. When something is shared consistently and lovingly, it becomes a rhythm that soothes and connects on a level words rarely reach. As much as togetherness matters, so does honoring the space between you. Sometimes, love grows strongest when both people are allowed to breathe freely within the relationship. Supporting each other's solitude, without taking it as distance, is a sign of deep trust. It shows you recognize the full humanity of your partner, not just as someone you care for, but as someone who exists fully on their own terms. That balance between closeness and space often becomes more important in our later years, when clarity and calm are valued more than noise and constant movement. Forgiveness also plays a quiet but crucial role in lasting intimacy. Over time, words may have been spoken that left small bruises, or perhaps certain disappointments were never fully addressed. You don't have to revisit every wound, but letting go of the emotional weight they carry can be a gift to both of you. When you release the expectation that your partner must be flawless, you make room for compassion, and compassion is where intimacy breathes most deeply. At this stage in life, there's also a unique opportunity to redefine sensuality. It's not about performance or comparison, but about attunement, slowing down, creating a safe, tender space where affection isn't rushed or assumed, but invited and appreciated. It might be as simple as lying together in the quiet, feeling the comfort of each other's presence. These are the moments where emotional and physical closeness blend into something healing, something grounding. And above all, never underestimate the impact of words. Not just "I love you," but the deeper expressions that say, "You matter to me. I still choose you. I see you." Those words, when spoken with sincerity, can rekindle a light that time and life's demands may have dimmed. When a relationship lasts through decades, it holds many stories, but it can always begin a new chapter. It just takes one person being brave enough to say, "Let's keep writing this together." So if you've been feeling a little more distant lately, or wondering whether the closeness you once felt can return, know this: it absolutely can. Love doesn't run out. Intimacy doesn't expire. What they need is your attention, your patience, and your willingness to show up, even in quiet, imperfect ways. Every shared glance, every kind word, every gentle touch, it all matters. This is your time to love with depth, not just memory. To connect not only out of habit, but with presence. And to rediscover that the bond between two people who have journeyed through life together isn't fading. It's just waiting to be seen again, clearly and fully, exactly as it is now.